Hi, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us today at the webinar for the Master of Arts in Guidance Counselling and Lifespan Development. I'm just going to wait another minute in case a couple of more people join us. Just to introduce myself, I am Sinead Liston. I work in the faculty office of the Faculty of Education and Health Sciences. I'm joined with my colleague Lynn. And we work in the faculty office. Also with us today is Dr. Petra Elftorp, who is the course director of the Guidance Counselling and Lifespan Development MA. Today, Petra will go through an overview of the programme and also some of the FAQs. If you do have any questions, you're welcome to use the chat or Q&A function. I'll keep an eye on those throughout the presentation. But likewise, at the end, Petra will answer any questions that come through on the chat or Q&A as well. But we'll keep the mics and cameras off for the duration of the presentation. Okay, so we're at 13:02. I think we might get started, Petra, and if any more people join in, I'll let them enter.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Sinead, and hi, everyone. So I have a few slides I'm going to just run through, and I've tried to preempt some of the questions that you have as well. I give a bit of an overview of the programme, talk a little bit about the entry requirements and interview process that we have, and then I have, as I said, preempted some of the questions you might have, but you're absolutely free to use that Q&A function, and we'll go through any additional questions then at the end as well. Okay, and I think that's moving on now, Sinead, is it to the slide? Just, yeah, perfect. So I'm course director for the programme, and my colleague Karen O'Connell is also leading the programme with me. We have an administrator, Mairead Condon, so we have a programme email address, and Mairead monitors that, so she might be the one that replies if you send any queries on to us, but just that you have a sense of who we are. And then we're obviously a bigger team in terms of staff involved in teaching on the programme, and we have a number of placement tutors and also guest lecturers that would come in. They're experts in different areas. So while we have a small enough team that you get to know quite closely over the 2 years, we also pull in from a lot of broader expertise as well from other areas. So just wanted to situate the programme a little bit in UL as a whole. So University of Limerick is, as I'm sure you know, quite a large university, and there are 5 faculties, and I've only pulled out the Education and Health Science faculty as larger simply to show where we're sitting, not because it's a larger faculty per se. But in the faculty, there are 6 schools and departments, and School of Education is one of them, and that's where we sit. So just to kind of get a sense of where the programme fits in the bigger scheme of things. One of the questions that we tend to get from potential applicants is around the time commitment. So you might have seen online that it's a blended programme, but it is quite intensive. It's part-time, but we have 11 modules that run over 2 years, and it's more or less 24 months because we have summer modules as well. Attendance is really, really essential. So while I'll get into more details about how that works, and I'll give some examples of the scheduling of lectures, there's an average of 6 hours a week, but some weeks are maybe 3 and other weeks there's more. But on top of that, then there's an expectation that you engage in reading and maybe some group work outside of those scheduled lecture hours as well. If you've studied in the past and that you're used to lectures in big halls with 300 students that talk for 2 hours non-stop, that's very different to how we teach on this programme. It's very experiential. We have a lot of informed discussions, and again, that is dependent on students actually engaging with the literature and coming into discussions, and can really engage with the material that we're and the contents and topics that we focus on. We do a lot of group work. So for example, in the counselling modules, they're very focused on skills development. So you might work in a group triad and you work with two peers and you sort of change roles and you take turns in practicing some of the micro skills, for example, in counselling. So that kind of active participation is really, really essential. The teaching is blended. The delivery of the modules is blended. And again, I'll show that in more details to map out what that means on this program, because that can mean a lot of different things in different programs. I have the word confidentiality there as well, because we work, there's a lot of personal development is the key aspect of this program. And so we do ask that people come in quite open to exploring their own careers and career development to date. So it's really, I suppose, the more you put in to it yourself, the more you get out of it. But it also means that we need to be mindful that we're sharing things amongst peers and experiences. So confidentiality within the student cohort is really important as well. So I mentioned the different styles of teaching that we have that is quite experiential. In terms of assessment, then we don't have any exams across the 2 years. There's quite, most modules would have 2 assignments. Sometimes it could be 1 assignment or it could be 3. And the assignments vary quite a lot. A lot of them are flexible and choice-based. So you might have an option to showcase what your understanding, both in written format or audio or video, for example. We have quite a few group assignments that tend to work really, really well. And we also have we're looking for different things. Sometimes it's about demonstrating a particular skill. It could be reflections, critical discussions, or evaluations, for example. So it's quite varied, and I suppose the only thing that we don't do would be written exams. Okay, so the most common question is probably about the time commitment and the scheduling over the 2 years. So I'm going to map out a typical year. It could potentially change a small bit, but this is the way the program has been scheduled for the last few years. So in your first year on the program, in semester 1, there are 2 modules running concurrently. And 1 semester is 12 weeks long. So we have 1 module that run on Tuesday evenings from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And that's a blended module, which means that you're on campus 4 Tuesday evenings spread across the 12 weeks, and the other 8 Tuesday evenings you're engaging online. But again, it's very much based on active participation in those online sessions as well. So it's not a case of them being pre-recorded and that you can watch them back at any point in time. They're very much live lectures. And then there's also 6 Saturdays spread across the 12 weeks. So typically every second Saturday, so you'd be on campus all those 6 Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. In the second semester, it looks nearly identical. Again, 12 Tuesday evenings, 4 of them are on campus and 8 are online. And then there are also 6 full days on weekends. So typically we have 5 Saturdays, and then on one of those Saturdays, there's an additional full Sunday as well. So it's still the same number of teaching hours, but just mapped out slightly different. The last part of the year 1 then is the summer module. So that is a module focused on psychometric assessment and psychometric testing. And so we tend to have that scheduled for 1 full week in June, where you're on campus for the full week. So 9 to 5 kind of, or 9 to 4 roughly, for 4 or 5 full days. And then you might have an assignment as well. So although we don't have a full break over the summer, you would still typically have assignments completed by the end of June, and then you still get a bit of a break in July and August before coming back to semester 1 and year 2. So in year 2, semester 1 looks very similar to semester 1, what semester 1 looked like in year 1, with the addition of you being out on placement for 4 hours per week. There are also a couple of supervision sessions that you're required to attend, 2-hour supervision sessions. So that is probably the most fully loaded of all the semesters across the 2 years, because you have the 3 modules essentially running at the same time. In semester 2, that's quite significantly different then, because you have no timetable lectures. So you have your placement continues from semester 1, so you have roughly 4 hours a week again, and then you also start your dissertation work. So some students do that as a group, some do it individually, and you work with the supervisor, but no timetabled lectures in this semester. And the dissertation then continues through to roughly mid-July, is when we tend to have a submission deadline for the dissertation. So hopefully that kind of gives a little bit of clarity around the timetabling. Just want to mention as well that we do have the option to go for an exit award. And what that means is that everyone gets signed up when you enter the program. You're registered as a master's student. In year 2, if you decide that you might have a master level qualification from a previous year, you might just really want to complete the program as soon as possible. And so you have an option to not complete the dissertation. So you continue to do all the other modules at the same. But in year 2, you can move over to register for the graduate diploma instead. So while you study all the same modules as the master students, you just do not complete the dissertation, and then the award that you get is a graduate diploma rather than the master's. So you come out with 63 credits rather than 90. In terms of time, when you're completed with your studies, there's only a difference of a couple of months, so there's no reduction in fees if you go for the exit award. So you would, if you go for the exit award, you have completed your studies in sort of May of year 2, and then you go to an exam board and you have your day with your hat and gown in September of that year. And if you opt to complete the master's with the dissertation, you submit that sort of mid-July, and then you're still fully qualified in September, provided everything is passed, and you have your full qualification in September, but then you graduate in the January ceremony. So we tend to get 4 or 5 students most years that opt for an exit award, and so they then have a graduation day separate to the rest of the group. Just these things are kind of good to be aware of. But as I said, everyone comes onto the program registered on the master's register, and it's only in year 2 that you need to make a call and decide whether you're going to complete the full master's or go for the exit award. Okay, so in terms of getting onto the program, the entry requirements is that you have a level 8 degree at 2.2 or higher. Many of our applicants are post-primary school teachers that so they have either an undergraduate or a postgraduate degree in education, but we do welcome applicants from other areas as well. And it's often really great in terms of getting more diversity onto the program, and it really enriches the program. So every year we have applicants from other areas. That could be people who worked in further education, for example, or community workers, or it could be people from nursing backgrounds, and we've had people from that might have worked in TUSLA, or lots of other social workers as well that come on to our programme. So we absolutely welcome applicants from a wide range of areas, but it's important to note that if you hope to be able to work as a guidance counsellor in a post-primary school, at least currently, there is a requirement to have a dual qualification, which means that you have to have a recognised teaching qualification and then also this guidance counselling qualification. So that's required for you to work in a post-primary school as a guidance counsellor, but it's not required to be accepted onto this programme. And just to say, while you might come across someone who's not a qualified teacher, but who works as a guidance counsellor in a school, sometimes that can happen if a teacher is really stuck for a guidance counsellor. But it's important to know that they will not be paid at a qualified rate. So they'd be, even though they have a master's in guidance counselling, if they don't have the teaching qualification, they're paid as unqualified teachers. So it's just an important bit of information to be aware of. Of course, these things can change, but that's currently the status. And other graduates, I suppose, go on to work in lots of different areas. We have people that work in the HSE, for example, and we have plenty of graduates who work in adult guidance settings, prison education, probation services, higher education, career services, and lots of different areas. So you apply online, and if you've submitted all your documentation and you get notified that there might be something missing or you need to complement that, just to keep an eye on any communication from the admissions office. So everyone who's then deemed eligible, who meet the entry criteria, we review all those applications. In the most recent years, we have had so many applicants that we've had to shortlist. So we've reviewed all applications and then shortlisted and interviewed, not all, but those that have been shortlisted. And then we invite those shortlisted for interview to our campus to come on for roughly half an hour interview with a member of staff. And then offers tend to be made as soon as we've completed all the interviews. We send out offers and they have to be then accepted within a specific time period, and that to secure your place you'd need to pay an acceptance fee as well. And then we're starting in September. Now we tend to have a reserve list as well. If you've interviewed but not been offered a place first off, you would be on a reserve list. And yeah, they were the pieces I was going to say. And just to address some of the very common questions that we get, a lot of people wonder about the placement. So if they can do placement in their place of work, and this is a possibility, but there is a caveat. So you do need to have a mentor who is a qualified guidance counsellor. So they should be working in the organisation where you do your placement. And if that's not the case, then you might have to look elsewhere. We do also recommend that you consider doing your placement in a different location. There's quite a lot of advantages to learning about a guidance service in a different organisation. So it's a recommendation we have, but it is possible to do your placement in your own workplace. Some people see the blended piece and hope that maybe they can do it remotely 100%, but that's not possible, especially for some of the experiential modules. It's really essential that you are on campus as well. So just the information on the previous slides will have kind of mapped out the extent to which the program is blended. Okay, so some people ask the question, will I be a qualified counsellor after this program? So we do have a couple of modules focused on counselling skills. but it's very much counselling skills for guidance counsellors. So you're a qualified guidance counsellor, but not a therapist or a counsellor after this programme. And it's quite important to understand the difference. And it's important, I suppose, to be aware that the work of a guidance counsellor, I could have had a slide there actually. The model of guidance counselling that we use in Ireland is there's kind of 3 core aspects to it. So it's career development, education, and personal. So this programme then covers all 3 areas, and the counselling aspect is very much focused on the counselling skills that we draw on and use in that role. And then I just have some links there to some useful websites. So depending on the type of the area that you might be interested in, there's one there from the Department of Education that gives quite a lot of detailed information. There's one there for anyone interested in the further adult education setting, guidance counselling there. And then 2 professional organisations, the Institute of Guidance Counsellors, probably the largest one in Ireland, IGC, and then also AHEX, focused then on third level education and career services within those institutions. And that's it. So I might stop.